So through the years, I know that the Lord's always been working in my life, and I'm able to reflect on recent situations and news where I've seen that to be true. And on New Year's Day, I had found out that I would not be returning to my job at Boston Pizza. I was working at Boston Pizza since I was 15 years old. I'm now 20, so it's a decent chunk of time. Through those years, management continued to change, some good, some not so good. And over time, my excitement to go to work turned into dread. Since finding out I was let go, I've been forced into a time of rest and waiting on the Lord that I was not expecting. I continuously prayed about my work situation, and I have recently found out that God has allowed me to return to the golf course job I've had over the summer, which I've never been more excited or thankful to have the opportunity to return to a job. I'm no longer currently working through the school year, which seems like a negative, but the Lord removed me from a situation that He knew I hated and where He knew I felt unappreciated, and for that I'm so thankful. I also thank Him for providing me with the opportunity to have a job that I love and I'm excited to go to, even with early mornings. In other recent news, I found out that my car, which many of you know I loved, has come to the end of its life and is also taking time of rest. I drove that car into the ground. So currently, I, again, am finding myself in this time of waiting, just as I wait on the Lord for guidance and care and provision with that situation, as I don't really know what it holds. And even with small prayer requests, such as being placed in a good practicum this past semester and for new friends, those have been recently answered. So as we talk about the Sabbath, I've just been reminded how important it is and how valuable it is to have these times of rest and waiting and resting in Christ, as that's what the Sabbath is. And in these times, God's just reminded me of the importance of being patient and content and thankful. I think of Romans 8:28, which says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, and for those who are called according to His purpose. And I think just through each of these recent situations and answered prayers and news that I've had, I've undoubtedly seen God's steadfast love and faithfulness and providence and provision over my life. And yeah, that's just how God's been recently working in my life, and it's been for my good and ultimately for His glory. For Hill's youth, as you find yourself in these times of waiting and rest, when you don't know necessarily what the future holds, that you're able just to go to the Lord with your prayer requests and just trust in Him. I know sometimes that's easier said than done, but just the good that has, and just knowing that He does care about you and it is for your good. And so when you ask Him for those requests, that He is willing and wanting to respond to them. So yeah.
Hi, Foothills Youth. I'm Parker. I'm your youth ministry coordinator. I think that's my title. And I have the pleasure of speaking to you today about a topic I'm pretty passionate about, and that's the Sabbath. This is kind of a follow-up conversation to the ones we heard last week. And this is just going to be more of a comprehensive overview of what Sabbath is, what do we do, what's it about, and why is it even a part of the rhythm of life that we need to cultivate. Now, for some of you, you're thinking, Parker, I'm in grade 6. I have no busyness in my life. Why do I need to Sabbath? And some of you are in grade 12 thinking, I don't have a moment to breathe. How can I afford to take a Sabbath? Well, today we're going to clear up some of the questions around that because it really is deeply important to the rhythm of life you cultivate as a Christian. So to just start off, I have a beautiful quotation from St. Augustine of Hippo, and it says this: God has made us for Himself, and our hearts are restless until they find their rest in Him. And Dallas Willard also said that busyness is the greatest enemy of the soul. And so what Sabbath is, especially in our day and age, is it is a countercultural stand against the busyness that our world is trying to push on us. You see, for myself, I'm currently a university student. I'm taking 6 classes. I am working 2 part-time jobs. I'm married, and I'm also doing a practicum. Busyness is woven into the fabric of my life. I know for my friends, 2 of them own a small business. I know for another one of them, he is getting ready to be married, and while in school. I know for students, when I was in high school, it felt like in the fall I was doing basketball, in the spring I was doing baseball, in the summer I was doing anything to keep myself busy. Busyness is woven into the fabric of our culture. And if we're not careful, it can numb us to a point where we don't even realize where we are. So, as Jason spoke and Andrew spoke last week from Matthew 11, that Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and you will find rest for your soul." Now, I know for some of us, the concept of rest is kind of relegated to binging a Netflix show all day because maybe we're not moving or we're not out of the house. But rest has such a deeper meaning than that. Rest and this idea of Sabbath comes from the shalom woven into creation. Shalom is not necessarily rest, but shalom is peace, deep and abiding. And so when we look at this idea of shalom, it's not only this peace and this rest, but it's actually when things are functioning the way they were meant to be. And so Sabbath reintegrates shalom into our lives. Sabbath, as was said last week, is usually a 24-hour period of straight rest. Sabbath is built around the idea, as was said last week, in Genesis chapter 2, when God rested from all that he had done. Now, I actually want to build into this idea. It wasn't because God was exhausted after 6 days of beautiful creation. Woven into this word rest, where God rested, is this idea of the way a king, after establishing his rule and reign, sits on the throne to enjoy all that he has established. So when we come to this idea of Sabbath, this rest period, it's not just for us to veg and do nothing. It is partially for us to look upon the good work that we've done in the week prior and to rest and enjoy the good work that we've done. Woven into Sabbath as opposed to rest, is 2 main things. And I want you to write these down, 2 main things. And it's actually just questions that you can ask yourself, to ask yourself if you're doing Sabbath right. And it's this: is it restful? And is it worship? You see, so many people get caught up on one of these 2 things. Either they just want a day of total rest where they do nothing and veg, but as you'll find throughout our Christian tradition, sloth is actually a sin. And is it worship? And so many people are okay checking off the first box. Is it restful? Am I just sleeping until 2 p.m.? Am I going out and eating the food I've wanted to eat all week? This might be restful, but the question you have to ask yourself always is your rest leading you to worship? You see, as I said, so many of us are caught up in a busyness. And like I said to my grade 6 friends, maybe you're asking, like, Parker, what is this conversation even about? A lot of youth ministry, this is a total tangent, but you gotta hang with me. A lot of youth ministry is giving you the skills now to be a functioning adult Christian. And so this is one of those skills that I'm trying to give you, is maybe you're not busy right now, but in our society, it's not a question of if you will become busy, it's when you will become busy. And so this idea of Sabbath that we're trying to teach you is something that you can integrate into your life to continue to turn to Jesus. Because as we said, you will find peace for your soul. You will find rest for your soul. And so this is the question we have to ask ourselves, is are we too busy to come to the carpet with God and rest? As I said to my older friends here, some of you will say, I am way too busy to take a Sabbath. I would contend that you are too busy not to be taking a Sabbath. If you choose not to rest and worship, you will actually go about your life where you will blink and you will realize so much of it has gone by, where you have not actually integrated a faith relationship with Jesus. But as I've said to you before, this relationship with Jesus isn't just something that we check off boxes on. This whole idea of Sabbath is built around rest and relationship. When you worship God, you integrate that relationship into your life. It's not about a legalistic task where you check off a box and say, okay, I did this, now I can go on with the rest of my week. No, it's a turning away from the busyness of life. It's a turning away from the rest of life to recenter yourself in what is true and what is good. And so my encouragement to you, students of Foothills Youth and leaders of Foothills Youth, is to explore this concept of Sabbath. Enter into conversation with those around you and asking them if they are integrating Sabbath and what it's doing to their life. Walter Brueggemann, who is a brilliant scholar, once said that Sabbath, although it is one day in the week, will make you live every 7 days differently. There is something recentering and beautiful about Sabbath that if we miss it, we miss out on so much of the faith that we've sought to cultivate. And so for you, my friends, I want to encourage you as you enter small group, would you engage the conversation of Sabbath? Would you ask each other how you're doing? Are you too busy? Are you burnt out? Are you frustrated? Because I want to encourage you, there is so much more life to be found. In a culture that constantly tells you you need to go, 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 increase speed, continue to amass wealth, and whatever else, the Sabbath is your Christian duty to grate up against the culture and say, no, there is something far more valuable than anything else. To give you one last thought, as I said earlier, this is the constant question you will be faced to pose is, I've got so much going on, can I afford to take a Sabbath? Jesus says plain and simple, what profiteth a man to gain the whole world if he forfeits his soul? If you are a slave to your work, to your sports, to your school, whatever it may be, this is your all-out offense against it, to say no, there is something far more valuable for which I can fight. So bless you as you go into small group time.